All right, y'all. So the Daily Wire is hanging on by a thread at this point. It's hanging on by a thread. Ben Shapiro's show has imploded. There's allegations he literally buys views. His engagement, his comments are super fucking low. The Daily Wire was already in financial trouble. They've been for a while. There's been a couple articles on that. But the biggest issue here is even all the people who are on the Daily Wire payroll, man, they're not engaged in the same mission. They're just not. So you have like Matt Walsh wants to be the great unifier of the right-wing side. And so he's trying to split the difference between like Ben Shapiro-style conservatism and Nick Fuentes Groyperism. And like you just can't do that. It's not going to work. These guys hate each other. They're at odds, you know? And he's trying to, hey, guys, stop hitting each other. It's not going to fucking work. So you have Michael Knowles, who's also on that same sort of page. And then you have Ben Shapiro, who's now gotten to the point, he let a lot slide for a long time. Like, whatever, let them say whatever they want. It's not a big deal. But now the problem is coming to a head. And now Ben is really drawing a line in the sand. And he's saying, look, if you can't outright criticize Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, like, you're not really a conservative. He's trying to excise them from the conservative movement. And at the same time, Nick and Tucker and Candace are saying the same thing to Ben. You're not really a conservative because you're Israel first. You're not America first, right? And so here we are. The TPUSA event just imploded into a massive MAGA civil war. Megyn Kelly is involved. Fucking Alex Jones and Candace Owens going at it. Like, there's a lot going on here, right? Here is Ben Shapiro doing some Daily Wire podcast, and he has on... Michael Knowles is on this podcast, and this is interesting because you see Michael Knowles desperately trying to, you know, defend the argument of like, hey, we need a big tent, and so a lot of these like far right wingers who might hate you, Ben, or like they should still kind of be allowed in the tent, and they might have a point on some things. And Ben he's fed up, and he comes in like a wrecking ball and just like destroys Michael Knowles' argument. Watch.
If you have a purely creedal idea of identity, then, you know, I don't know, half of the people we went to college with would not be American, even if their parents came on the Mayflower. We don't really have a purely racial basis for America. Certainly haven't in a long time. What do you do about the problem? What do you do about the total collapse of social solidarity?
We are, in fact, a creedal country, and there is no other definition of Americanism that tends to hold historical water. The notion that we are a heritage-based country, meaning that you're more American because your great-great-great-great-great-grandparents got here, as opposed to your great-great-great-great-great-grandparents got here, that is going to be a very, very difficult proposition.
I don't know. I mean, what does John Jay say in Federalist 2? I take it as a mark of providence. He doesn't discount the creedal, but he says we all come from the same ancestors. We all had the same experience of the revolution. We all believe in the same religion, roughly.
Michael, that was true in 1785 when the country was founded. And let's just be clear. We're going to go by the full heritage American standard. The first people who get kicked out are the papists.
Yeah.
Not the Jews.
No, I don't know. The heritage would be...
Oh, no.
So do you understand what he just said to him there? He's saying to Michael Knowles, like, bro, be careful what you wish for, because you're saying only heritage Americans should be allowed in this country, meaning like you got to go back to the founding of the country. You have to trace your lineage back to them then to be considered an American. And what Ben Shapiro is saying to him, like, hey, idiot, you're a Catholic. You're all into your Catholicism. Catholics were otherized for so long in American history. You were viewed as the untouchable. You were looked at the same way that, like, Muslims are looked at these days, and that Jews are beginning to be looked at again these days. So, like, careful what you wish for. If you're on the team of only heritage Americans can be in this country, your ass gets kicked out too, you fucking idiot. This is a point that I made to Fuentes. It's like, bro, first of all, your last name is Fuentes. So, like, strike one, you're out. You don't make the cut in this white nationalist utopia you want to set up. That's point number one. Your dad's half Mexican or whatever the fuck it is, right? So, there's that. But also, he's a Catholic. The Protestants, when we talk about heritage Americans, when we talk about, you know, the lily white Americans who got here on the fucking Mayflower and shit, you're talking about Protestants. They're all Protestants. None of them are Catholics. Catholicism was looked at as this weird fucking cult, okay? You don't even know the history. So you're making an argument. You don't understand the first thing about it.
The heritage would not go in your favor, my
No, it certainly would.
Oh, he's Sicilian, exactly. So you're also considered like a person of color, you idiot.
Cigar company called Mayflower Cigars. To your point, Ben, when we talk about white people in the 20th century, we're largely not talking about the Mayflower or Massachusetts Bay Colony. We're talking about people who came in later from other parts of Europe. We used to...
Yeah, and why are those people considered white? Because the definition of whiteness has changed as it's changed throughout history, right? There was a time when Irish people were not considered white. There was a time when Italians were not considered white. And we shifted the definition with time to broaden whiteness to include them in it, right? So when will we get to the point where, quote-unquote, whiteness is expanded to include everybody who's in this country? right? And you might say that's ridiculous. Well, there was a time when it was viewed as ridiculous that Irish people would be considered white and Italian people would be considered white, right? That's all people want is equal treatment under the law. That's all they want. And these guys are trying to draw lines around like, no, these people are acceptable, but these ones aren't. Now, in my lifetime, we went from Hispanic people were not considered white. Now, you know, there's forms where it says like, are you non-white Hispanic or white Hispanic? So there's like a white version of Hispanic and a non-white version of Hispanic. That's another, the definition has changed just in my lifetime of what counts as white, right? So when you say we're going to create a white nationalist system, which kind of white nationalist? White nationalist by the standards of 1900? White nationalist by the standards of fucking 1800? White nationalist by the standards of 1950? White nationalist by the standards of the 2000s? White nationalist by what fucking standard? It's all so utterly arbitrary and made up.
But people kind of get grafted in and they move in and out. And it seems to me that's totally gone. And to say that there is no people, you know, that have been here for a long time, going back to the Revolution or the Civil War or the Mayflower or what have you, to me that seems to undercut a really important part of what a nation is.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that it's not part of a nation, but to pretend that the chief definition by which we determine Americanism is ancestry is, of course, silly. And not only is it silly, it's historically inaccurate. There are real conflicts that have existed since the foundation of the country over exactly this sort of stuff. And now we say white, but for a while there was some pretty significant anger about Swedish imports and German imports and Italian imports and Irish imports. And if you go back to the know-nothings of the 1840s, they were not protesting against Muslim immigration or Jewish immigration. They were protesting in large part Catholic immigration coming from places like Ireland and Italy. It seems to me that we can absolutely hold by a creedal country and keep people out we don't want here on the basis of that creed. If you go to a sort of more heritage American ancestry-based system for determining Americanism, first of all, you will never win an election. There aren't enough people who are like that. The number of descendants of the Mayflower is a very, very small percentage of the population of the United States.
I mean, 10 million, probably.
That is smaller than the Muslim population of the United States. You're talking about 3% of the population is a Mayflower descendant. So if you want to build an entire political movement on the descendants of the Mayflower, I congratulate you on never winning an election for
No,
the
here,
rest
listen,
of
I'll
time.
clarify.
So that was a beatdown. What we just witnessed was a beatdown. You have Ben Shapiro, shockingly, being 100% correct. But here's where his point falls apart. He would restrict, like, Muslim immigration, for example. And, like, I'm sorry, but then that's you siding more with Michael Knowles in this argument. He said, like, oh, we're a creedal country and we can keep people out on the basis of that creed. Can you? Can you? So in other words, what you're saying is there's an ideological test to come in this country, but there's not. And that actually flies directly in the face of the First Amendment and the Constitution and freedom of speech and freedom of religion and freedom of belief. So, like, no, that's actually not how it should work. And so in a weird, like, this is the problem with Ben Shapiro, is that his ideology is like, let's do standard conservatism and hate on black people and hate on immigrants and hate on trans people and hate on gay people. But let's definitely not hate on Jews. And let's definitely not hate on Indians. And you have, you know, the Fuentes of the world go, no, I'm an equal opportunity hater. I hate everybody equally. I hate all these motherfuckers, right? I hate all these different minority groups. And, like, that's sort of the problem, is you're in no man's land. There's two political factions that are logically consistent. There's the one that's like, I'm an equal opportunity hater and I despise all these minority groups and I blame them all and I hate them all, right? That's the Fuentes position. And there's the lefty position. There's my position, which is, no, everybody's equal under the law and I don't cherry pick among, oppressed groups. I don't say, like, oh, we're going to defend people from transphobia, but we're not going to defend them from, like, anti-immigrant sentiment. No, I want to protect all the groups and I want everybody to be equal under the law. And so Shapiro's in this weird place where he's like, yes, hate the black people. Yes, hate the trans people. Yes, hate the gay people. No, don't hate the Jews. It's like, no, all of your hatred of those other minority groups, the granddaddy of all the conspiracies is that it's the Jews who are orchestrating society in a way where they want intermarriage to get rid of the white race, right? And they force pornography upon us to undermine the nuclear family. Like, that's the granddaddy of all the conspiracy theories. And he's willing to play footsies with that until it reaches its logical conclusion. Then he goes, how dare you? That's anti-Semitic, right? And so that's where we are. That's where we are. We have, do you hate Muslims more, right-wingers, or do you hate Jews more, right-wingers? Do you love old Hitler or new Hitler? That's the dividing line on the right. And I do not see in any way, shape, or form this right-wing civil war coming to an amicable close. It is life or death for the movement, right? Like, it is life or death. Either Fuentes is going to be defeated or Ben Shapiro is going to be defeated. But only one ideology will rise from the ashes. And right now, they're going to be in no man's land for a long time. And the rising ideology is going to be leftism. Because it's the only thing that hasn't been discredited in this Trump era. Everybody else has been discredited. MAGA politics, right-wing politics in general has been discredited. That's why Trump's at a 35% approval rating. Neoliberalism, corporate centrism. That's been defeated. That's why it's the Democratic centrists who always end up losing to MAGA. The only thing left to try is true leftism, is real leftism. And that is the unvarnished record and superiority of true leftism is now standing out amongst all the other failed ideologies. Because we're over here with the unvarnished truth as these idiots are throwing haymakers at each other, and everybody sees it. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.